Nope, wrong way.
What up? It is J Marie with What's the Word, and I have one of Chicagoland's only UFC fighters, Daniel Argueta. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just getting done practicing. I'm putting in the work while I'm here at home, while
You putting
balancing
in
being
the
around
work.
my
You got a
family.
fight coming up soon.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
uh,
we're
it's exciting.
we're gonna get into that in a little bit, but I want to talk about your background in martial arts. How did you get started?
Honestly, it all started here, exactly where I'm at now, at Carl Sandburg High School, where I began wrestling, and this is the reason I'm fighting today. These coaches pushed me to always
Hello?
be. Can you hear me?
You're going in and out.
Oh, these coaches always pushed me to do the extra work, and I'm still here 15 years later doing it.
Wow, wow. So would you say that this has become a so you started in high school. Did this was this always something you wanted to do even as like a younger kid, or did you like it just started in high school?
Well, I didn't begin training to fight till after I was done wrestling in college.
Oh
When
wow.
I was in high school, I was just wrestling. It's
Mhm.
completely different worlds. Yeah, I started training when I was 23 years old, but I started wrestling at
Wow.
8 years old. I was 11
Wow.
when I came up with the crazy dream of wanting to be in the UFC.
Oh wow. So like okay, so walk me through this process of deciding at like you did wrestling for so long and then you went into mixed martial arts. Like was that how was that transition? Like what were the differences between the two?
Night and day. You don't get punched in the mouth when you wrestle. You can't get
Okay.
you can't get kicked in the head when you wrestle. You don't get choked out in wrestling. Wrestling's a discipline that from being little kids, it just teaches you to be tough, improve positions, work hard. It's especially out here in the Midwest when it's freezing outside. There's snow on the ground. You don't want to get up and go to practice in the middle of the winter, like just the lifestyle of it.
What were some of the things that you did to help transition with that and to become more tougher because like you said it is night and day.
Uh, I just I had to take on all the new disciplines of the sport, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. I had to take it on like it was my first year wrestling. I really had to submerge myself in that new world. And
Mm.
I kind of had to put wrestling behind me and be like, okay, I'll always know how to wrestle. Now it's time to learn all these things. And it helped me adjust.
Helped you adjust. Now it helped you adjust into then going into the 29th season of The Ultimate Fighter. Let's talk about that experience. What was that experience like for you? And how did it grow you as a fighter?
It was cool, it was a vehicle for my career. I think all of us would have loved to be on a reality TV show at some point or the other, right? You
Yeah.
see this, it looks awesome. It looks so much fun with, especially like being on a show like Jersey Shore. Like, oh, that those people had fun. Now I'm going on it. Now I'm going on a show doing the stuff that I like to do.
Hmm.
I'm getting to fight the guys that I'm living in the house with. It was it was surreal. I've been watching the show since I was a little kid, so to finally be on my own season of it, you're joining a small fraternity of some of the biggest names in MMA.
Did that I guess that experience, did you learn a lot from the other fighters? Like what was your takeaway from learning from them as well?
What do you mean, the guys I lived with?
Yeah, yeah. Like how did you take anything away from, I mean, I know
No,
that you guys were
it's
probably
more of a actually, what, I lied. A guy in a different weight class. He's a really good wrestler, and he put a couple things in, like a couple techniques in my head where he said, Dan, you get here in these positions, you should never fail. And that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So now you're from the Chicagoland area. How does being from the Chicagoland area help you as a fighter? Do you have a chip on your shoulder for being one of the only fighters from the Chicagoland area in UFC?
Of course, it's special. It's home. People ask me, hey, where's the dream location you want to fight? I say, I want to perform where Jordan performed. I want to
Mm,
fight in the UC. I want to fight at the United Center, front and center, and have the best night of my life. That's
mm,
every little kid's dream here from Illinois. But that's any basketball player's dream to just play where
right.
Jordan played. And to
Right.
perform. And it's you're right. It is kind of a chip on my shoulder. I do make sure that, like, for instance, I'm speaking to you today, and I don't know how much MMA you watch or how many fighters you know their stories, but I want to make sure you know my story and that you know I'm from here and that you know that I'm your new favorite UFC fighter and I'm right down the street.
Okay. Okay.
And
And
it's
how
it's
has
a big chip on my shoulder.
it's a big chip. Do you carry that into
Yeah,
your fights? Like, I think anyone from Chicago just has this pride. We had this pride about us when we go anywhere. When you go into the ring and and you're doing your thing, like what does that like motivate you just knowing that like you have people back home who are watching you, who are
of
maybe,
course.
a little bit, you know, they're
I'm
not there yet, but they're getting
oh,
there. I know you said you're
oh
at your
yeah,
whole
no.
school right now.
Of
How do you
of course. It's these
Hello?
next wrestlers. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Generation of wrestlers.
I can't hear you.
Good.
You're going in and out.
Oh shoot.
Can you hear me?
Still out?
I could hear you.
Yes. Okay. Um, it's paving the way for the next, just, for them to see, hey, this guy's right down the street and he did it. He made it happen. And then for fans, I want to bring new people
Mhm.
to the scene. I want them to say, oh, I talked to that guy. I met that guy, or I know people that grew up with him. I, there's no words to describe it. When you go in the cage, you're all alone. Like, I'm not saying, yeah, I have all these people behind me. No, I'm real. I understand. It's just me in there. But when I
Mhm.
win, it's everyone.
It's
When I
everyone.
when I when I lose, I'm gonna see who the real ones are.
Mm. Yeah, you definitely see. I think when you go through that process of kind of just going through the downhill and the uphill battles of fighting or just accomplishing any goal that you have, you definitely see who's going to be around you. And I want to talk a little bit more about your foundation. I saw on Instagram you shout your girlfriend out. How important is it to have a support system, like a supportive partner by that? Because I think a lot of the times, people who are goal oriented, if they don't have someone who can understand where they,
Call your dad.
where they're going, it can actually be more of a hindrance. How has she helped you?
She's been with me since the beginning. I don't know if you know that.
No, I
Since
don't.
since she's been with me since my first amateur MMA fight,
Wow.
which you don't find that often.
Hmm.
It's hard to find a partner that understands the sport, understands the lifestyle, understands the requirements. Her father was a professional kickboxer, and he was also a Division I college wrestler. She wrestled. She did martial arts growing up. Like, And she's a girly girl, you know,
Yeah.
she understands my life. She
Mhm.
knows the sacrifices I'm going to need to make. She understands, oh, this is why Dan's been gone for a month, because on top of being in training camp, he has to go home and see his family. I haven't seen her in almost a month.
Oh my goodness.
I've been at training camp. We live together. You know, we've been together for the last 5.5 years. And people don't see that those little sacrifices I have to make. You know, she's my best friend. She holds it all down for me. She really pushes me to be better. She's the best at what she does, and she tells me just to take jabs at me and poke at me. She said, "If I did what you did, I'd be the best." And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. I need to believe more. I need to work harder. I need to study more. I can always be better."
Mhm. And with that support system, I know your parents are probably behind you as well.
Of
As a
course.
I'm a mom, so the thought of my son going into something like mixed martial arts is like it's scary. How what would you say to parents who want to get their kids into whether it's boxing or mixed martial arts or wrestling? A lot of people talk about the cons of it. It's dangerous. What would you say to those parents? What are the pros of this?
I would say, you know, you start by putting your kids in wrestling. You know, it's and when people say, "Oh, I don't have enough time," or "It's too expensive," you just need wrestling shoes. That's it. You know, it's not like something like hockey where it's thousands of dollars in gear. Like, you just need wrestling shoes. You get cheap wrestling shoes at the thrift store. You know, you can get shoes. Um, I think I wouldn't start my kids in any sports where, you know, you're getting hit and punched necessarily. You know, because that does instill a little bit of fear.
Mhm.
You know, you don't want to think of the thought of your kid using that for power. Like, you know,
Right.
I have nothing against the kids that do become good boxers as kids. Like, you know, good for them. Some of them turn out great.
Mhm.
But the thing about wrestling in general, it's you'll give your child confidence. You know, you can go out into the
Mhm.
street knowing that if someone tried to punch you in the face, you watch fights. Very
Yeah.
rarely can a pro fighter knock someone out in one punch.
Right.
You know, so if someone's getting picked on, you're not gonna get. You know, you won't necessarily get knocked out in one punch, but you know that, oh, I can wrestle that guy and take him to the ground and win a fight.
Mm.
It instills confidence in these kids. No one wants to bully the kid that's winning
That knows how to
a
fight.
hundred.
Yes.
The kid that's after school every day. He's going on the mats and
Right.
fighting with his friends, throwing his friends around. No one's trying to fight that kid. It instills confidence in the kids.
How
You
did
know,
it help you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it I feel like it should be required. You know, I always laugh when I hear that like a kid's never slammed another kid on his head. I'm like, really? I'm like,
It's normal
I've
to
been
you.
I've been throwing my friends around since I was 7. You know, it's normal.
How
So to
did
hear
it help?
another little boy not do that, it's weird. I'm like, you need that. As little boys,
Right.
you need that. You need to be able
Yes.
to go roughhouse and lose and win. And you need that.
How did that help you growing up? Wrestling and just how did that help you with your confidence now?
Oh, it's always in my back pocket. I know I put an expert amount of time into something that a lot of the guys I'm fighting also did. But if they
Mm.
didn't, now I got a real chip on my shoulder. Oh, this guy didn't wrestle. This
I've
guy
been
did not.
doing this forever now. This is
He did
normal.
not wrestle for 20 years.
Yeah. So your Instagram says you're the most interesting Dan in the world. What makes you the most interesting Dan in the world? Let's let the
Because
world know what makes
you
you.
when people look at my page, they don't know where I am. They don't know what state I'm in. They don't know if I have a fight coming up. They wonder why I'm off in the desert shooting guns. They wonder why I'm driving these cars. They wonder they're always wondering, oh, how are you friends with this person? How are you friends with that person? Oh, you, you know, I'm not going to the office every day.
Right.
I'm always off doing other things, and my dad's the one who started that. He said you're like the Dos Equis guy, and I'm like, you mean the most interesting Dan in the world? And he was like, yeah, exactly.
So you recently you were injured, and this is you're going your first fight is on January 14th in Las Vegas. But you
Hmm.
were injured, and a lot of I was watching just some reels and stuff, and they were talking about how like this injury, I guess you came back from it pretty quick. How did you do how did you what were the steps that you took to like come back from that injury?
Well, my job is to be a professional fighter, right? Going into that surgery, I had to treat it like a professional fighter. It wasn't, a month out, I find out I have surgery, so now I get to take it easy for a month. It wasn't that at all. It was a month out. I'm working. I'm getting stronger. I'm dieting. I'm going into the surgery expecting expecting to come back stronger, better, faster.
Mm,
I had to take the surgery very serious, and it was very crucial. There was no mess ups. I couldn't mess up, and just because I did all the correct work, that's why I got to bounce back so fast. I'm not
mm.
special. I just put in the extra work.
Now, one thing, there was a quote on one of your pictures that said, "Find what you're afraid of and go live there." I love that quote for several reasons. But I want to know, like, being injured and now going into this fight, are you ever afraid? Like, is there ever maybe, I guess, a part of you that's afraid that you may get re injured again? And how do you fight those thoughts?
That's not what I'm afraid of.
Oh, okay. What are you afraid of then?
Losing.
Losing.
Not
Mm,
afraid. I'm not afraid of getting hurt. Never have been. I'm not afraid. We sign up for it. I'm not afraid of injury. I'm not afraid of. I don't know what people are afraid of.
so the only
Sorry.
thing in the world
The
you're
the only thing I'm afraid of is not performing out there. And I
mm,
told my mentor that, and he goes, "What's wrong with you? Why are you afraid of that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." He goes, "You've never not performed." And I was like, "You're right. I have no reason to be afraid of that. I'm afraid of what happens if I don't perform." And that's never been the case. Whenever I've lost a fight, I went out there and had the fight of my life. I just a couple
mm.
mistakes, and that's where I have to live with those thoughts, knowing, ooh, I this pressure, or whenever I feel like quitting during an exchange, that's when I have to keep going. I've
Mm.
said it 3 times in the last couple of days where people people are asking, "Oh, what do you do on the bad days?" Oh, on the bad days, you know, I usually only have bad days because my good days, I don't. I kind of get worried that, oh, today's too good. This is too
Mm.
easy. I do something to mess up my good days. I do something, whether it's go for a run, do extra sprints, do extra work, work harder, make it tough on myself. I
So
I
that drives
really,
you.
yeah, to be scared.
So what are you doing to prepare for this fight now? Aside from messing your good days up, what are you doing to prepare for this fight on January 14th? And
Everything,
excuse me?
everything. I'm lifting. I'm wrestling. I'm kickboxing. I'm boxing. I'm running. I'm training for this guy like I'm fighting a world champion. I'm trying to train
Wow.
because that's the only way I'm going to train harder than my last fight. Because my last fight, I trained like I was fighting a world champion. So now I'm doing it
Mm.
again. Then my next fight, it's going to be the same exact thing. As long as I always prepare like I'm fighting a world champion in a 5 minute round fight, I'll be okay. I'm always trying to do more.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us tonight. We are so excited. I'm going to
Thank
tune
you
into
for
that
having
fight
me.
because I'm going to be cheering you on
Thank
for
you. Thank
sure.
you.
Good luck, and we'll be cheering you on back home in Chicago.
Thank you so much. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at Dan the Determined. I'll reach
All
back out
right,
to everyone
Dan
from
did
Chicago.
determine.
Please, talk to me. I'm always willing to talk to people and always willing to chat and respond. I want to make sure the next wave of fighter got the best blueprint.
Yes, Dan, the most interesting Dan in the world, y'all. Y'all have a good night. It's J. Marie.
You too.